welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. So excited that you're here. And let's go ahead and ground ourselves in our greatness, right? Let's do that. Okay. So, my great thing from yesterday, I think just this continued realization of how far we've come, how much growth has happened. I recently recategorized my show, which when I started my show, I couldn't really figure out what category it should go in. And I don't think that that was, um, a result of me not knowing. Well, a little bit. But I think too, it was just there wasn't really anything like this that belonged in a category. So I think I started in self help, thinking that I was going to be some sort of helpful voice on this planet, hoping that I would be. And then we kind of moved to how to as we began to experiment and figure out that this is more of a how do you navigate and figure out how to live life on your terms and less of a here I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing and how to do it, because I began to realize that it isn't just copy paste, right? Like people can't just take what I do, apply it to their lives and have the same result, and that's not false of anything. Like anything that you are going to try to apply to your life that someone else is doing, you are not likely to get the same exact result. So then we just start shifting into this kind of idea that it's just a collective work of how I'm navigating this. And that shift probably came about 6 months in, or maybe almost a year in. And so we recategorized then. And just recently, they came out with the category of personal journal. And I think that's the most beautiful category that I could fall under, because that's really, looking back, what this has been the whole time. The journal out, like the daily experience, walking out of a life that was just fine and into a life that just felt aligned and true to me. This isn't a journal of someone overcoming all of these amazing things and then becoming successful. This is like if you were starting from X. So if you were starting from fine, privileged enough, educated enough to figure some things out, not rich enough to invest all of our money into something, like if you were starting from there, and true to my story, if you were starting with no financials to back you, if you had to do this for free, could you get somewhere? And then I didn't know if we would get anywhere, because honestly, right? Money talks. Money is everything. How can you not invest a penny into something you're doing and get somewhere? And I just wanted to start on this idea that there are enough free resources. Google exists, and so I can figure anything out for free. And I've kind of just committed to that. I'm not paying for a coach. I'm not paying for X, Y, and Z. I'm just committing to finding my way, which means it's going to take longer, but like finding my way true to me, not only to prove to myself that it's possible, but to prove to anyone out there with the same limits that I had kind of committed to myself, to prove to them that they could be doing it. And I had committed so hard to this idea that you have to be privileged and you have to have money to invest and you have to have the right people. And what I'm finding is showing up just with like a good heart to serve, to love on people gets you further than money ever will. Right? And then just continually showing up as that person. You can't fake show up as that person to get what you want and then get out. People know that, right? Can you just show up as a good hearted person consistently with the love of your own life, with the love of others, and get somewhere? That's what I'm trying to prove. That's what I'm here to do. So feeling excited that now we're in a category, honestly, that a category exists that fits what my show is. And it didn't 2 years ago, 1 year ago when I first started. And so it just feels so much better to kind of be sitting where I belong. And that's not to say that this won't change over time, but this category is so much truer to the work that we're doing. I always felt like I kind of had to shift and change wording in order to fit into my other categories. And I don't have to change what this is in order to fit here. And so that's my great thing. We don't have to change because the times are changing. And personal journal podcasts are popping up more and more. And I'm so excited that I just went out on a whim and started my own, not knowing where this would go, and we'll continue singing it forever just because this is the podcast that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the podcast that never ends. Okay. I hope that song gets stuck in your head every time you sing it, every time I sing it on this podcast, and you sing it throughout your day the same way that I do every time that I sing it here. Like, that's the goal of bringing that song back to this podcast. Barney, circa 1990s, welcome back. If you didn't grow up there, maybe your kids did. I don't know your life, but I hope you sing this song throughout your day. Please let me know if you do. Okay. Regardless, we're still going, we're still growing, and more than anything, if there's a world that you want to create, you can create it. Just do it. Just do it. You don't have to know. The category that I envisioned for my show didn't exist until almost 3 years later doing this work. Right? It doesn't have to exist right there. There's a possibility that you're creating something brand new that no one has seen before. And that's amazing. Okay. Right? Maybe you're going down a path that no one has gone down before. Maybe you're going to go to school for this thing and you're going to create this thing, whatever that is, right? You don't have to go start your own business, start your own company, start your own podcast for this show to fit you. Whatever path, right? Wherever you're going, it's okay. It's okay to create a new one. It's okay to wait. The category might not be there. It's okay. All right, that's my great thing. Take time. Recognize yourself for your great things. Seriously, just do it. I don't know. I keep thinking about how important that is and how much that probably actually impacted all of this work that we've done here, and my mind is blown. Okay, so today we're going to get real uncomfy, maybe for some of you, and maybe for me, and maybe for the world. I don't know. But I've been getting some feedback because now we're going into launch mode of my first company. We're doing more. We're expanding the brand, right? And I've been in classes and I've been getting some feedback from people oh, wow, how are you already here? How do you already know how to do all of this? Wow, that's happening really fast for you. And this is why we're going to go over this today. Because I do not want you for 1 second to be sidelined by the thought that, wow, everything's really aligning for Hanna really quickly. In fact, that's exactly why I started the podcast 2 years ago, so that there was proof of what it might look like to start at square one from day one. And is that a risk? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I could have failed, right? I could have stopped. I could have completely lost and gave up. And everyone would be like, oh yeah, you did a podcast. Wow, way to go. Right? And so that's a major risk to step out and do something like that. But I wanted that story to be told in the off chance that I would be successful someday, that I would do something that other people recognize as successful, that this story was written well before. And so today we are actually going to cover, I actually made a list. So if you are on video right now, here is the real live list. It's in the pink text of just a list of all of the failures that I have encountered related to this work, related to all of the different business ideas and ventures that I have tried and failed at. All the different attempts, all of the different applications, all of those things. And this is important today because I kind of keep hearing the same thing, like, wow, that really happened fast. And I don't want you to get discouraged if you're in a season of failure right now. I don't want you to stop. I want you to keep going. And so hopefully this list of probably about 100 things encourages you to keep going. It's okay, right? We all have seasons of failure. Mine just happened to be like a 3-year season of trial and error. And that's not to say that we are in a season of success, right? But I've heard that comment enough times for me to want to help all of you out at this point and let you know that even if you see success from here, it didn't start right here. Even if you're just joining this podcast right now and you're going, what's she talking about? Well, we're on like episode 405. So like we've been through a moment together. So you can go back if you want to know about all these things. But in case you just started right here, I'm going to go through this list today. First off, I would say starting the podcast was probably the biggest failure of all. I remember launching. I remember just hoping that people would just review or like it or love it. And early on, I heard from Gary Vaynerchuk that like you can't really deem yourself a success until you have haters. Right. And so everybody was just so nice. Everybody was so loving, and that was so helpful. And after kind of the excitement of the podcast launching, of like a group of women fearlessly encouraging me to do that, after they all kind of fell off of the excitement train, all of a sudden we get all the way down to like no listeners, nothing. And I'm just like, you know what? We're going to keep doing this. Luckily, a ray of sunshine came into that point and just said, keep going. This has helped me. And I went ahead and let that be my focal point. So starting this podcast, error, mistake, failure, number one. We did not start out on a good note. It was all just love and light and support. But I knew that probably meant that I didn't have real listeners and real supporters of this show. Okay. Next, a TED application. I have always wanted to do a TED Talk. I have always wanted to see myself on that stage. And so I started applying to the fellowship program, so 3 years ago, I started applying, and like I thought it was all about the coaching that I had done, and I was kind of lining up all of those things, and that made perfect sense, and I was super excited and rejected from that. Right after that, I was turned down from a position, and that was like going to be a position that aligned with me speaking and doing culture work, and kind of a mixture and beautiful culmination of all of the things that I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a leader. Then I applied for like a director position because I always wanted to be a leader of people, of things. I knew that was true to me. Get rejected from that. Rejected, and I didn't even know that I got rejected, but I had to write the congratulations letter memo to everyone about the person who did get the job before I even knew that I didn't get the job. That was cool. And then I get rejected by another company who had kind of pursued me, and I thought it was like this clean, beautiful pursuit, like, oh, they really think I'm a good human being, that they want me on their team, but it was really just like a way to get me interested in them and bring them on. It was a mess. Okay, so then I decide that I'm done being rejected by this company, by all those companies. So then I start deciding that I'm going to create profiles of motivation types, like try to get that up and running. I not only apply that to the podcast, I decide that I'm going to create these profiles. I decide that I'm even going to take it to work and see if we can apply what I've learned and thought through to there. It's rejected in both places. Then I start deciding, I get into culture work at my job. I start deciding that I'm going to do kind of culture shaping, but somehow mix that with motivations and how people work. I start applying that to the pod. I start working with a team. I really started doing videos with them. I quit because I got no feedback and I got scared and I was really just nervous that nobody liked it. So I stopped completely, cold turkey. Like there wasn't even a conversation about it. It was weird. Then I start working with another team, like really aggressively, and I'm super excited about it. And I know that I talked about it on the podcast, and it's super exciting, and I'm working pretty closely, and it's pretty aggressive work, and that just fizzles out and goes nowhere. I decide that I'm gonna coach. Fine, if that's not working out, then I'm gonna go ahead and just coach, like one-on-one coach people, because that makes sense with the work that I'm doing. I land 2 clients right away. It went good. I was really excited about it. I know that I talked about it on the podcast because that's actually how I got people into the coaching funnel. It went good. Had really great feedback, really loved it. Energetically, it felt good for me, and it just kind of fizzled out, never really went anywhere. Not because I wasn't trying to pursue it, just because I wasn't getting people, because it wasn't really something people were interested from me. My thoughts and ideas and my approaches, I think, are just very out there. So it didn't happen, didn't work. I apply for a speaking gig, get rejected from that, start pitching my book, that's rejected, just like left and right, every pitch. Apply to TED Fellowship again, get rejected again. Then I decide that I'm going to leave my job / I kind of almost got fired from it. Like that's kind of a major rejection. And now, right? Now I get to fail faster. Now I can try things at an even rapider rate, right? So I start pitching my book more. It's rejected every time. I start reading audiobooks. I'm certain that this is going to be the thing. Get rejected every read that I do for audiobooks. I start / stop another podcast. These are things that I ended up having to write on the side because I didn't even clue these in. I decide that I'm going to start just being a creative, like sort of whimsically writing and blogging and doing things like that. Kind of fail at that. It doesn't really go anywhere, because I'm really not doing anything other than just sort of following something, but really that was just about a freedom pursuit. Then I decide like I'm going to do a newsletter. I'm going to funnel people into a newsletter, and that's going to be the thing. That's what I need. I need people. I need access to people. I do a couple newsletters. Honestly, they're not very good because I'm not very inspired to do a newsletter because I don't read newsletters. And so I stopped the newsletter. I decide that I'm going to do a Facebook group and be real committed to that. That sort of falls off just because like I want to do that, but I don't want to be on Facebook all day. And I feel like, the podcast is what it is. And then I decide that maybe my road is supposed to be a minimalist teacher. Maybe I'm supposed to teach people how to be a minimalist. So I even create, funnels for that. I create that business line. And I should have you know that all of these things really came with me like building entire business profiles out of how that might work, building websites, sometimes even building different funnel build outs. I also decide that maybe I'm just supposed to coach youth volleyball camps, like either live or online. At some point I apply and think that I'm going to become a beauty influencer, which I'm sure we were all laughing at that point. Still laughing about that one. It's okay. At some point I decided that I'm going to be a Google influencer. The beauty influencer and Google influencer were really in that first year. But I think pretty hardcore about how Google's going to just find me and love that I created all of this entire empire with their products, and they're coming for me. That doesn't happen. I reached out to them. The beauty influencer doesn't happen. I reached out to those people, applied, got through the second round, got rejected. Okay. So then all these things aren't working. Okay. I start and stop another podcast that still may start later, but it just wasn't happening. I decide that one of the revenue streams is going to be a clothing line. You guys, come on. And that never goes anywhere. Started like the entire you should see the amount of Instagram, Facebook pages, accounts that I have out here. Start like an actual website for that clothing line, doesn't go anywhere. Do insurance sales for a little while, fired kind of, I don't even know. There wasn't really any back and forth communication. It was confusing. Book rejection, speaking rejection, and all of these things, right? And that's like a very probably lowly compiled list of things that I have tried and failed over the past 3 years in this pursuit of finding who I was supposed to be. And that's kind of what I want to say today. You aren't really a makeup of all the times that you've failed. Your willingness to just continue pushing through and failing and figuring it out. Because yesterday someone said to me, like, wow, that new website is really cool. And I thought and they're like, how did you learn how to do that? And I'm like, well, honestly, I've built probably 12 terrible websites over the past 3 years for different projects. Most of them unrelated, most of them not making sense. Me tearing apart and tearing down and restructuring my own website, which that one's not even beautiful, but like this isn't just by chance that I know how to do this, right? And so if I come in and I'm speaking to this project that I have, I wake up, I start my day speaking. I do that 5 days a week, right? So like if I seem like I'm 12 steps ahead of you, it's not because I had some sort of crazy, alignment and someone's coaching me and they're talking me through how to do all of this. It's because we just practice it, right? Like you don't even need a coach. You could outwork that, right? And so I don't know. I guess today is just really about the amount of times that you're probably going to fall as you continue to pursue this. And I hope going through that list gives you permission to just go. Just go. You don't have to know, right? You just listen to all the things over the past 2 years of doing this podcast, of showing up every day, that I thought for sure were going to happen, that I am certain I talked about on this podcast happening and coming to life, and me seeing it, right? Seeing how it could play out. And even now, that's part of some of the risk of doing this podcast is like, I don't know how anything's going to play out. I didn't know starting my podcast that we would be where we are right now. And you're never really going to know. You can't even map the entire process. But you can just start being willing to just start and see, right? And I could have / did build probably, I would say, at least 10 different company profiles and ideas, minimum 10. I think it's probably more. Profiles and ideas of what I thought I was going to do. And what that did was allow me to experience enough failure to understand that that's pretty much what this life is. You're just going to continue throwing things against the wall. Some of them are going to fall. Some of them are going to stick. The ones that stick, go. Stop overvaluing your time. Okay? I don't want to offend you, but we all got time. Okay? You're nothing special. Your time is actually not all that special. Not special enough to not just start trialing something, right? And if you can't find time, well, I don't believe you. You can find it. You may not want to, right? Because then you would actually have to start trying something, but you can find it. You absolutely can. I think sometimes our list of excuses just become what we're holding on to so that we don't have to face rejection and failure and all of those things. So start to examine that list of excuses as to why not. And just know anytime that you're venturing out, people are looking at your failures and you get to decide if that one defines you or not, right? Because as I go through this list, as I'm writing it out this morning, and I had to stop myself from writing, I'm certain that this is not including all of the things that I attempted to do, all of the things that I met with people to bounce ideas off of, that I met with people to trial on. This is not even an inclusive list of that, right? But instead of letting that define this podcast, letting that define me, and stopping, because if you stop here, if you stop on this list of failures, that becomes who you are, right? You stopped. You failed. Or you keep going. You apply it, you learn from it, you pull what you can, and you use it later on, right? Because now all of my terrible websites that I built made this current website for the current company very quickly beautiful and accessible, but I didn't get there by building beautiful, accessible websites for the last 3 years. No, I built terrible ones. My personal one is a personal mess, and it's okay, right? As long as you don't stop moving. So I want to end today reading this. We have arrived, people. Hanna has an official hater that I don't know that came on and gave me a 1-star review. And I realize all of you are probably going, oh my gosh, that's so mean. No, you don't get 1-star reviews if you're out here doing something that everybody's comfortable with, right? That means I hit someone's button. That means that I'm saying something worth saying because it's pushing people, okay? Someone took time to personally hate on the work that I was doing, and I could not be more excited, right? The second you have a hater, you've made it. So I'm saying all of these failure things because the rise is coming, people, and I want you to remember that we did not start at the rise point, even though that's what people are going to look at, right? From right here on, that's what people are going to look at. I want to remind you of all of the things that we've trialed to get to this point. All right, so I'm going to read this 1-star review of my podcast just to cap all of the failures to get to this place right now. Here's the review. Why would anyone listen to this podcast every day? Other than listen to the narrator, that's me, talk about nothing other than how she feels, right? And unfortunately, no real purpose or direction. And I don't think this reviewer is wrong. Absolutely right. I don't know where we're going. That's not the falsest thing that's ever been said. And to look at this and to go, okay, yeah, if someone was coming into this podcast right from if they pulled up episode 405 and they had never listened to anything before, how am I guiding them to this place? How do they know more about me and my brand? And so I can take that and apply that, or I can take it and look at it and cry all day yesterday. But seriously, I was so excited yesterday because I remember when I started and I remember getting all the good feedback and being really excited about that, but knowing that there was something missing. And I had been waiting for this because someone had said, once you get someone to hate on your work, you have made it. And actually, I got hated on twice yesterday. Twice, right? But this one actually appears on the podcast reviews. So All that to say, just mess it up. Just mess it up. But don't stop there. Keep going. And hopefully this long list of failures that I couldn't even stop myself from listing helps you in some way. Just fail forward. Just get back up. Get back up. You are only the result of your last, failure. Just keep going. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.